Hi everybody, happy Saturday and welcome back to Clues by Sam. We have another tricky one today. I want evil, I want brutal, I want terrible. But I'm pretty happy with the tricky ones too. And if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it's a daily puzzle game that starts from easy and may get up to hard or evil. And we are here in the channel every day doing this. The rules are each person on the board needs to be a criminal or an innocent, and they might give you a clue to help you figure out what they are or what other people are. So yeah, if you want to play too, there is a link in the description. You can click it and you can do it along with me, or if you need some help, then I'll be explaining it as I'm going. Shall we start? We start with Kate telling us that only one of the two innocents neighboring Ronald is Sophia's neighbor. Wow. A lot of names. Okay, so Ronald here, Sophia here, and Ronald has two innocents neighboring him. Sophia is one of the people who neighbor Ronald, and Sophia shares all of the other neighbors that Ronald has. So that means that Sophia has to be one of the innocents, otherwise she would have two innocents shared with Ronald. And we're gonna leave that clue here because it tells us the total for Ronald. So now Sophia tells us that Carol and Evie have no innocent neighbors in common. Carol and Evie have two neighbors in common, but none of them are innocent, so we know that both Deborah and Ivan are criminal. And now we don't need Sophia's clue. Deborah tells us that both innocents in row 4 are connected. Row 4 has Sophia, which means that someone else who neighbors her, either Ronald or Thor, has to be an innocent. Those are the two innocents in row 4, and that makes Uma a criminal. Thor and Ronald are one or the other, one a criminal, the other an innocent. And Ivan tells us that Carol and Frank have only one innocent neighbor in common. Well, Carol and Hank share two neighbors, just like Carol and Evie, and only one of them is innocent. So we take those two as well. But we don't know who is innocent yet. Let's look at Uma's clue then. Uma tells us that Wanda has exactly 3 criminal neighbors. And Wanda's gonna have one criminal neighbor here in row 4, neighboring Sophia. But the only way for her to have 3 criminal neighbors is for both Vance and Xavier to be criminals as well. And now Vance tells us there are some who call him Vance the Vicious. Interesting. Xavier tells us that Mary is one of Sophia's 5 criminal neighbors. Well, Sophia has 8 neighbors total. Mary is a criminal. Now Sophia has 3 neighbors total. And we already know where the 4th one is going to be. It's going to be in row 4, which means that Logan, Nancy, or Wanda are a criminal, the last one. Right? So what do we know now? How do we progress? Both innocents in row 4 are going to be connected. Carol and Frank have only one innocent neighbor in common. Carol and Frank. Yeah. These two innocents neighbor Ronald. So we know that Logan and Wanda... Oh, I don't need to use the lower tag. I can use the upper one. So Logan and Wanda are one or the other because one of them is going to be the second neighbor who's an innocent for Ronald. And the other one is going to be his last criminal neighbor, which makes Nancy an innocent because we know that Sophia has only one more criminal neighbor besides the one in row 4. So Nancy has to be an innocent. And that makes Nancy tell us that exactly 2 of the 4 innocents on the edges are Sophia's neighbors. There's 4 innocents on the edges total, and 2 of them neighbor Sophia. Since we can't have both Logan and Wanda be innocents, Ronald has to be one of the 2 that neighbor Sophia, right? And that makes Thor a criminal. And now we don't need, we need Nancy's clue to tell us that there's a total of 4 people on the edges. Now Thor tells us that Logan is one of Frank's 4 criminal neighbors. Where's Frank? Frank is up here, and he's gonna have one criminal neighbor here who's either gonna be Aaron or Hank. He has a second one who's Mary. And for him to have 4, both Carol and Logan have to be criminals. So we know that Logan is a criminal, which makes Wanda an innocent, and Carol is a criminal as well. Now, Carol tells us that there's an odd number of innocents neighboring her. And we know she's gonna have one innocent neighbor here who she shares with Frank. And if Frank himself were an innocent, she would have an even number of innocents neighboring her. That's 2. So Frank can't be an innocent. And we don't need her clue anymore. Now Frank tells us there's an odd number of criminals in the corner. Interesting. There's 4 corners, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means that we can't have 4 criminals on the corners. We could have only 1 or 3. We have 3 people who are innocents on the edges, and 4 people who are not revealed yet on the edges, but only one of them is going to be an innocent. Does that person have to be on the edge? Yes. Did I say on the edge? I mean, of course, the last person to be an innocent on the edge has to be on the edge. But does that person have to be on a corner? I think so. Because if Olive, for example, is an innocent and she's not in a corner, we're going to have 4 people on the edges who are criminals, and that's an even number. But we can't have that. There's an odd number of criminals on the corners. So Olive is for sure a criminal. And now it's a matter of corners. Now Olive tells us there's an equal number of criminals in rows 1 and 5. So far, both rows have the same number of criminals. But if Zoe were to be an innocent, there would have to be 2 more innocents in row 1. And that will break the total of innocents on the edges completely. So Zoe has to be a criminal. And there's only 1 innocent in row 1, of course, on the edge, on the corner. Now Zoe tells us there are 14 criminals in total. So we know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're gonna have a 13th here, who's either gonna be Aaron or Hank. So we need 14 for Evie. Oh, I misclicked. Terrible. At least I didn't get it wrong. I just misclicked. That's not paying attention for you. And since Evie is a criminal, we know that Aaron has to be an innocent, which makes Hank our last criminal. I feel bad about that yellow. Well done, thank you. Solved in less than 8 minutes. I wish you could say it was all green. I'm gonna edit this. But it's a part of it. Sometimes we make mistakes. We're not paying that much attention. I always try to do it very quickly, so I'm bound to do that sometimes. And it's okay. It's not that serious, but I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be leaving you here for today, and I'll be back tomorrow with more Clues by Sam and maybe a different puzzle as well. Let's see. Let's see how tomorrow goes. See you then. Bye-bye.